here's Christian apologist Frank Turek to show us all that even when you work really, really hard to come off like a smart, thoughtful, intelligent person, religion will turn you into a babbling idiot.
This person could not believe in a God who would cause suffering, meaning Job, just to win a bet with the devil. How would you respond to that?
I would ask, by what moral standard are you judging God for that?
Okay, can we finally get this one out of the way once and for all? When someone makes an internal critique, Frank, they are giving your worldview the benefit of the doubt. They're assuming that your beliefs are true for the sake of argument in order to examine whether certain propositions would be true under your worldview. So the moral standard those of us outside the faith are using to judge the actions of your God is your moral standard, your God's moral standard. In the case of Job, you, Frank, are the one claiming there's an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God. So when I look at that story and see God allowing horrific suffering to come to a man and his family so that God can win a bet with the devil when he absolutely knows how things will go down, meaning none of what God allowed is necessary, I call BS on your standard, which asserts that God is all good, all-knowing, and all-powerful. Though I do love the overall moral of the story that being a good person and following God will not protect you from tragedy and evil.
And I would also ask them, have you ever allowed your children to go through any sort of pain and suffering for a reason? In fact, Elisa, you just brought it up earlier in the program, right? You were pointing out about going to the dentist, right? That you got to take your kid to the dentist sometimes, and the kid doesn't want to do it, but the kid's going to have to do it for a greater good.
Gee, Frank, I thought your God, again, was all-powerful and all-knowing. When my daughter was a child, we took her to the dentist as soon as her big girl toofies came in and had a dental sealant put on her teeth, a painless procedure, hoping to prevent tooth decay so that she wouldn't have to go to the dentist for painful procedures, at least not as many. We did everything in our power prophylactically to make sure she wouldn't suffer now or later. When you're all-powerful and you actually exist, you can create a world where no one has to suffer. Wouldn't that be nice? If you're going to say that the suffering of sentient creatures leads to some greater good God can't actualize without that suffering, then I'm going to question your definition of all-powerful and your definition of all-good, given that it includes the use of sentient creatures causing their suffering as a tool to another end. Is it just me, or does this God guy seem kind of awful?
When we see something that we don't quite understand, we can't see, why would God allow such a thing to happen? We've got to take account of what's known as the ripple effect. That every event that occurs ripples forward into the future to affect trillions of other events.
I'm rippling right now. No, wait. Cringing. Sorry, I meant cringing.
Say a couple in a church have a baby that gets sick, and they say, please pray for our baby. This is a serious illness. And the whole church prays, and the baby dies anyway. And you go, I mean, the whole church is praying God? I mean, how does this make any sense? Well, it doesn't make any sense from a temporal perspective. So when someone asks, why do babies die? We can say, well, we know why babies die in general. This is a fallen world. Not everything's going to work out right. But if you're going to ask me, why did this baby die? I don't know, but I know why I don't know. I'm inside of time. I can only see a very small speck of time. I can't see the whole picture. God can. Maybe a baby dying today creates a series of ripples into the future that, I mean, trillions of ripples, that 500 years from now partially causes a great evangelist to arise and save millions of people. Can we trace all those ripples? No, we can't, but God can.
So, Fred, Wilma, Bam Bam had to die because I, God, just couldn't figure out any other way, despite my being all-powerful and setting off this entire sequence of events all the way back to Adam and Eve. I just couldn't figure out how to get this great evangelist to arise 500 years from now who will go on to save millions of people. Not without without killing your baby, who, by the way, I'm sorry to say, will be suffering now eternally because you didn't believe quite exactly the right thing and baptized your baby into the wrong denomination. So sorry about that. All right. Good chat, right? Love you both. If you could just show yourselves out, do you mind? I'm kind of busy.
So what we have to do is just trust God. This is why at the end of the book of Job, God basically says to Job, look, Job, you can't even tell me how the physical universe works. You're going to lecture me on the moral universe?
Yes, God, because you keep using that word moral, but I do not think it means what you think it means. Not when you're killing babies to make some other good happen 500 years from now when you're supposed to be all-powerful. Another word you keep using incorrectly, meaning you could have made that good happen without killing a baby.
You just have to trust me because you can't see the end from the beginning. I can see the end from the beginning, and I can allow all these ripples to go forward and bring good in the end.
Yeah, but God saw everything right from the beginning and could have made a world where his desired good happens without killing a baby, and he didn't. Would you trust a sociopath like that?
This is why the Christian can be confident, because in the book of Romans, Paul says that we know that all things work together for good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. He doesn't say all things are good. There's a lot of evil out there. He says all things work together for good.
But we can say that an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good God wouldn't have to create and allow horrific evil and suffering in order to bring about whatever good God desires. If God's all good and there was no evil before he created, then every good God desires already existed in him. Meaning there can be no good God desires which requires evil and or suffering. The evil and suffering is unnecessary, Frank. Okay. Well, we are so lucky this God guy doesn't exist, right? Because he sounds as stupid as Frank. Once again, I'm me. Thanks for watching.